people, thank you, members. I have submitted written testimony, but I did want to hang in there to speak on this as well. I live in South Kingstown, Rhode Island. I appreciate the service that you provide these long evenings on these important issues. Figured I could take one too. I am here today to register my opposition to Bill 1593. I also am in support of House Bill 5515. I am here as a state employee of Rhode Island, as a resident of Rhode Island, a taxpayer, and the spouse of an immigrant who I'm very proud to say has built a successful life with me here in Rhode Island for the past 30 years where we've raised our family. My specific objections to 5093, and I won't read my testimony, but I do want to touch upon them. This bill targets both, lawful and unlawful immigrants, requiring the reporting of citizen status of any Rhode Islander to the federal government. And people have touched upon this already. It also encourages anonymous complaints. So I'm very concerned that what's to prevent someone from anonymously targeting programs or people that they have an agenda against. This bill is very coercive and overreaching. As a state employee, I am extremely upset with the duty to report provision that requires state employees to report any violations or lack of enforcement of the act under threat of imprisonment and fines. This goes against my values. I object to being mandated to be complicit in the targeting of immigrants, and I did not sign up to be an agent of ICE. I'm very concerned as a Rhode Islander that this authorizes the withholding of state funds to any entity that does not comply. Entities will rightfully resist this type of legislation. And this bill jeopardizes funding of valuable services and programs that will cause interruptions and have grave consequences for many Rhode Islanders, whether it's the elderly, victims of crime, students, medical patients. There will be consequences if that goes into effect. People have done a very good job of making the point that this will not make our communities safer. And state and national law enforcement leaders rightfully oppose this. This point, I wanted to bring forward from a friend who has extensive experience volunteering as an HIV test counselor for AIDS Project Rhode Island. This bill could jeopardize public health. I am told by this friend that House Bill 5093 will make both undocumented and documented immigrants afraid to go to their doctor for treatment. They need to see a doctor every 6 months or less, putting them at risk of death or transmission of HIV to others. He would have been here himself to provide that testimony to you, except that as a permanent resident, a lawful permanent resident of the U.S., but a gay man who fled persecution from Brazil, he is terrified to speak in person at public hearings. So this is the face of what this climate that we're in, and these types of bills that someone so articulately said earlier, we can no longer choose to take lightly. So the recent State House protests, several of which I participated in, are important. They're indicative of how many Rhode Islanders feel this way. They should continue. But I realize, and I ask you as my representatives I recognize that it's what happens inside, not outside on the steps, that is really going to protect us as a community. And I would ask that my state legislature strengthen protections and not weaken them. So I would ask you to aggressively denounce legislation such as House 59-3, whether you think it's going to make it to the floor, whether it's going to be kicked down the line. I think we need to hear from you. People need to know that I believe we are being tested for inroads and that it's a very corrosive environment. I would ask that you strengthen our protections, and I would also ask that you support legislation that does that, such as House Bill 5515. The testimony on that tonight was excellent. I'm very happy to add my name to those that support that.